Hello and welcome to my channel Making Crafts. Today I'm working on some gingerbread men and I'm using the new dies from Spellbinders, and here is one of the little gingerbread men I've already created. And so now I'm getting ready to cut out another one, and then I'm going to show you how I sew these up and how I create a few different projects using these. So let's get started crafting. I'm going to start out by showing you how I create the book band or bookmark. It's a stretchy bookmark using the gingerbread. And so what I'm going to do first is just cut out all of my pieces using the dies from Spellbinders, and I will link below to those dies. And those dies go ahead and cut out the holes around the gingerbread, and they also cut out the holes for the mouth. And a lot of the pieces, it has holes in it for your decorative stitches or to stitch it on. So what you want to do is, for any of these dies from Spellbinders, or when you're creating felt projects like this, you want to go ahead and add all the decorations to your gingerbread before you take and sew it up. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to add some glue to my gingerbread and attach the eyes. And there are dies for these eyes, but they're little bitty felt eyes. So what I've decided to do is just add a little bit of art glitter glue to attach them at first. And I'm going to let those dry, and while they're drying, I'm going to go ahead and sew the mouth onto the gingerbread. And so once those are dry, we can come back and add a few stitches to the eyes to be sure that they don't move. They're so small, I'm afraid that I will lose them, so I always add just a few little stitches to those as well. So for the mouth, what I'm doing is I'm just using a running stitch. And for the running stitch, it's very simple. If you've never sewn felt before, or have never hand sewn before, all you do is you start at the back, you come up one hole and go down the next, and you'll do that all the way across the mouth. And so when you get to the left-hand side, I started on the right-hand side, whichever side you want to start on, you can. But when you get to the opposite side, you'll see that there's some gaps in between your stitches. So then you come back across, filling in those gaps. So you'll be coming up at the end of one stitch and down at the beginning of another stitch. And that's how I'm filling in the mouth for this little guy. And so once I get to the end of it, I could have just gone ahead and sewed his eyes, but I wasn't thinking, so I went ahead and just knotted my thread. Either way, you can do either that you want to do. So I'm just adding a couple of knots to my thread on the back side of the gingerbread so that I'm sure that the stitches don't come loose. And so once I trim those, I'm just going to come back now and I'm going to add a stitch to each of the eyes. Now the eyes, like I said, are very small, so you're just going to, add a very small stitch in there just to hold them on. And with the glue, it is a little bit tougher to run that stitch through, but it's possible. Just take your time. And I find that if you go ahead and try to sew the eyes before the glue dries, your eyes are going to just travel right up the thread and you're going to have to push them back down. It's very doable. It's just a little bit aggravating when I tried it. I tried it with my other one with the ornament, and it was a little bit aggravating, so I decided that it would be best to just let the glue dry and then add the stitch so you don't have to keep pushing the little eye back down the thread. And so you can see there, I've just added a stitch to each one, and I am just trying to use my finger to make sure all of that. When you do that, since it's so small, it does move the felt just a little bit, so I'm just trying to arrange it so that it looks good and round. And then I'm just going to, once again, tie a knot on the back of the gingerbread. So once I have that, I'm just adding something a little extra. You don't have to do that. You could stop with his face right there and it would be just as cute, because I did with the ornament and it was just fine. But I decided I wanted to add two little X's on the ends of his mouth to look like little rosy cheeks. So like I said, you can leave that out, but I thought that would be just a cute way to dress him up just a little bit more. I thought that it added a little something to him. And for some reason this year, I'm really into gingerbreads. If you see my card video that I put out recently, I created 15 cards and I decorated those cards up using gingerbread and ginger girls. And I've just really been into them this year. For some reason, I think they're adorable. And normally I don't decorate with gingerbread, but this year I want to do more decorations with them. Each year it's fun to pick a different theme and use it to decorate. So I'm planning on making more gingerbread But this one I'm planning on using on my Christmas journal. So you could use this in a book you could give this as a gift, and it could be used as a bookmark, or it could be used on a Christmas journal to hold it shut. That's what I'm going to do. But these book bands are really neat, and I've never made one before, but I decided when I saw this gingerbread that I really wanted to make one for my journal. So I tried a few different ways, and this is the way. In a few moments I'll show you how I make the band work with this one, but this is the way I found that it worked best for me. There's probably tons of other ways to do this. So for the next step, what I'm doing is I am creating a little bow to put on his neck. So on the ornament you saw before, I had little heart buttons that are cut out with felt. But for this one, I decided I wanted a bow on his neck instead of the buttons on his belly. And so this bow comes in the die set as well. You have 3 pieces. You have a little circle that looks like a little button. Then you have the little ribbon for the back, and then the bow part. And so the bow has a little cutouts on it for you to just fill in the stitches, and I did running stitches on that. And then I just sewed my bow together. Once I had it sewn together, I'm attaching it to my little gingerbread. And for the little button piece that you put on the front, there's 2 little holes in it, and they match up with the holes on the bow as well as the little ribbon. So you just layer all that together and then sew through it. And it's just like sewing on a button. You just go in and out the hole. And so that's what I'm doing there. I do go in and out the hole a couple of times to get it good and tight. And then once again, I'll just come back on the back side of it, and I will tie a knot so that it doesn't go anywhere. So I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of art glitter glue. I think you could use Aleene's tacky glue on this as well, but I'm going to add just a little bit of glue to the back of the bow so that it doesn't go anywhere. Because this is going to be a book band or a bookmark, I knew it's going to be sliding up and down against papers if I use it as a bookmark. So I wanted to be sure that the bow is not moving so it doesn't get hung on anything. If you're making it as an ornament, I wouldn't glue it down, but I did for the bookmark. So in this die set is also 2 star cutouts. One is a solid star, and then one star has cutouts for you to stitch on. So what I'm doing is I went ahead and I cut out both stars, and I'm stitching the star that has the holes on it for the decorative stitching. I'm stitching it to the solid star because I want this to be a pretty sturdy star for how I'm going to use it. So for the decorative stitching, this star has like a circle around the inside, and then it has little lines coming out for each of the little points of the star. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the decorative stitching. I'm doing a running stitch again, just go like I did for the mouth. And so I'm just going to do the running stitch all around the decorative stitches, fill all those in, and then I'm also going to stitch up one of the little lines that go up onto the point of the star. Now you want to leave the other lines that's on the left and right hand side as well as the bottom 2 points. You want to leave all 4 of those points unstitched so that we can use that to attach it to our gingerbread. Now I used a similar thread to sew up to add the decorative stitches. You could really make this pop and add more color to it, but it is going to be on the back side of our gingerbread, and I'll show you in a moment why we're going to use this, but it's going to be on the back side, so I really didn't worry about adding a lot of decoration to it. If you didn't want to do the decorative stitches like I'm doing, you could just glue 2 solid star pieces together, and then you would still have to stitch them on and make your own stitches, but you could do that if you didn't want to do these decorative stitches. And as you can see, I'm just going front to back, so I'm not worrying about hiding the stitches because you're not going to see the stitches on the back of that star. So once I'm done stitching, I'm going to bring my needle through the inside of the star and back to where we had started so that I can tie a knot in the 2 strings together and hide that knot inside of my star. So I'm just going to pull it tight so that it's hidden inside of the star, and I'll do a double knot again so that the stitches don't go anywhere. Which there's not going to be a lot of stress put on these stitches because they are just for decoration. Now I need to add the star to the back of the gingerbread. So I'm just starting from the inside of my gingerbread, and then I'm just going to sew each point of the star on the left and right and the bottom points to the gingerbread. So I'm going to follow those stitching holes, doing a running stitch again, but this time just attaching it to my gingerbread. So you want to line the star up so that the point, is going straight up towards his head, and then you have the 2 points going out towards his arms, and then 2 points to his leg, so that the star fits right there in that space. And so then once again, like I said, I'm just going to do a running stitch and attach each one of those lines to our gingerbread, leaving the top one, since we've already stitched it, we're going to leave that open, and so that this star it's open at the top and at the bottom. And once I have that sewn on, once again, just another double knot on the back. So when you get done, your star should be attached to the back of the gingerbread, not going anywhere, not moving, and you should have a gap from the top and bottom. So now let's go ahead and sew our gingerbread together. For that part, I'm just going to start with my thread on the inside of the gingerbread. So what I did was I slid up under his leg there, started on the inside, and then I'm going to make all of my, so that the thread's going to be hidden at the end, and then I'm going to start making my running stitches around his body. So it's just like we did his mouth, just around his whole entire body. You're going to go up one hole and down the next, and you're going to continue that all the way around the gingerbread. And so as you can see, as you do that, it does leave little gaps in between of your threads. And so then you'll come back and fill in those gaps once you get all the way around the gingerbread. Now for this one, if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of another piece of felt on the inside to make it a little thicker, or you could add, I didn't add batting because I thought that was too thick for a bookmark, but for mine, I didn't add anything. I felt like how I had stiffened up my fabric that it was perfect for this, and so I did not add anything to the inside, but you could add something. You could add some interfacing if you want it to be a little bit more sturdy, but I thought he was perfect for how I wanted him to be. And so you can see here, your holes are on the front and back. They line up, so it's easy just to go in and out. Sometimes though, when you do run it through the die cutting machine, all the holes are not going to come out because it is felt. It doesn't with paper either, and you have to poke them out. What I do is I just wait until I am stitching it up, and then I just use my needle to poke it out. And you can see I'm flipping it over from the front to the back, so I can make sure that I am hitting the holes each time, so that the stitches look pretty on both sides. Even though you're not really going to see the back of this unless you take it off of your book, I still wanted the back side to be just as pretty as the front. So I've made my way all the way around the gingerbread, and I've started back again. I've fast forward just a little bit, and you can see I've already started filling in those stitches. So you kind of can see now what I was talking about, how you want to have your, the stitch lines filled in. So you're coming back and you're going up at the end of one stitch and down at the next, and just filling in the spaces between the stitches we made on the first time around the gingerbread. And so once we made our way all the way around, I just tie a knot and have the knot inside of the gingerbread, just like we did with the star. So now I've pulled out a piece of elastic, and I am measuring my journal. So this is the typical size of Christmas journals that I make, and so I'm just measuring the journal to make sure that it fits. And I also did not show you, but I have another journal that I'm going to put it on at the end, and that was just an altered book. It was about the same size as this journal as well, so I made sure it would fit it because I couldn't decide if it's going on a cloth journal or on the altered book. So before we get to going with this elastic band, let's go ahead and finish the decorations on the front of our gingerbread. So for the little icing strips, you don't have to sew those on. I'm just using a little bit of art glitter glue to attach them, and you can see here I'm running a line of glue along the inside of that strip, And I'm trying to get a good amount, but not so much that it oozes out when I put it on my gingerbread. And so I'm just going to add these to both of the legs and both of the arms. And what I do is I just let it dry overnight. And so far I haven't had any issues. Once they're dry, it seems to be stuck on there. So I'm not adding any stitches to these. So if you want to add stitches to these, then you would need to add these before you sewed your gingerbread together. The reason I didn't is because I knew I wasn't going to add stitches, but also you can see here, they do cover up some of your brown stitching lines, so you would have to figure out how to go up under it, or you would have stitching lines on the top of your icing, and I really didn't think I would like the look of that. And I think he's looking so cute now. These are so adorable, and they're so easy to put together, and like I said at the beginning, I think this is a great beginner project if you've never hand stitched or sew stitched, and this is a great project if you have. I've done a lot of stitching in my life, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very relaxing and fun to do. And I have so many more projects I want to do this Christmas using these, and I have several more dies to show you over the next several days. So be sure to check back on my channel to see how I'm using these dies for different projects. Now these dies were intended for felt, but you can use them on paper, and I've seen lots of other crafters using them on paper this Christmas, and they look really cute on the paper as well. That's something I've never done that much of, is hand stitching paper. So I'm not sure how I would like that. I may have to give that a try as well. So now I've just ran the elastic band underneath the star, and I'm going to just stitch it closed. So you could take it to a sewing machine and do a few little tack stitches really quick, but I wanted to show you how you can create this just hand sewing. So I've just pulled out some more embroidery thread that's white, and I'm just adding a little tack stitch, and it's kind of like how you sew a button on. I'm just going back and forth, adding that stitch, and just really getting the elastic sewn together really tight, because there is going to be stress on this elastic when we stretch it around our book. So you want to be sure that you get this sewn together really good. And it looks like I'm sewing it on top of itself, but I am, but at times I'm going underneath and above just to add a little bit more strength to it. And then I trim off as much excess of elastic that I can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to cover this with a button. You could use one of the felt buttons, but I'm just using a little red button. But you don't even have to do this. You could hide the stitch part underneath the star. But I decided that I wanted to add just a little bit something more to this, so I'm just adding the red button to it to cover up where the two elastic pieces meet, and just to add a little bit more decoration to this little book band. And it's that simple. Once we have the button sewn on, we have our book band ready to go, or our bookmark. I keep calling it a book band, but it's actually a bookmark, and then it's also it can be a book closure, whatever you want to use it for. I think it would be fun also to use these on your planners during Christmas. If you use a planner, it would be fun to, because my planner comes with a closure, just elastic closure, but it'd be cute to add this to that so that it has a little bit of a decoration. And this is my altered book I made several years ago. And so I thought it looked really cute on it. The altar book, I've never used it yet. So I thought this may be the Christmas journal that I use if I run out of time. So I think it looks really cute on it as well. And once I add a decoration to the front of this book, some more Christmas colors, I think this is really going to pop. Now you could just hide the button behind your little gingerbread like that, or you can run it around the back of your book. Either way works. But also you can use it as a bookmark. So I'll show you here. You can just take and open up to a page that you're working on and just add him to the inside of your book. And then you can slide him up and down. So what I thought would be neat was to help find the page, you could just slide him to the top of your page and close your book up, and he will be peeping out at you or peeking out at you so that you know what page that you are on. So on to our next little project, our little gingerbread ornament. I've gone ahead and added all the details to him, and now I'm getting ready to finish him up. So to add the string that's going to hang this little ornament, I'm going to put the little hat on his head. So I haven't attached the hat yet. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the hat, holding it where I think it's going to land when I sew it on, and then I'm marking where I want my string. And I'm just using a needle there to kind of figure out where the top of his hat's going to be so that he'll hang kind of level. And so once I figured it out, I'm just adding this string to the, starting from the inside of the hat and then bringing the string out the top. And so I've gone ahead and added a little batting to the inside of this hat as well. And this little Santa hat is included in the die set as well. And so I've gone ahead and stitched the top portion, the little red portion of the hat together, and I've stitched a little button on. It does come with a die to add that little cotton, the little cotton ball piece that hangs off of his hat. But instead of using the die, I decided to just add a little white button there. And then I've attached the little white trim at the top, but I've not sewn it together. That way I can attach it to the top of his head. And then I'm just going to sew it on to his head. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to run my stitches. So you see the string at the top. Now, don't get confused when you're looking at this. The string at the top is not the string that I'm using to sew the hat on. That's going to be the string that I use to hang him. So now I'm bringing in, and the string that I'm using to hang him is some cotton string like you would sew up, like you crochet with, actually. It's the thin cotton string, though. It's not the crochet yarn. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going to stitch the hat onto his head. So I'm using some embroidery thread to do that. And I'm just doing a running stitch, and I'm sewing from front to back. So I'm just going through the back hole all the way through to the front hole that lines up with it. And you're going to have to just take your time with that because it is a little bit harder to maneuver here. But once you get going and get the hat tacked on just a little bit, it goes a lot quicker. But you're just going to do a running stitch back and forth. So I'm going to go all the way around his little hat, and then I'll come back around with the running stitch to fill in the stitches like we did when we sewed up our little other gingerbread. Now for this one, like I said, I had gone ahead and did everything the same as I did for the book band gingerbread. The only difference is when you're making an ornament, when you do your first stitches around your gingerbread, so when you're sewing your gingerbread up and you're adding your first set of running stitches, before you close him completely up, you want to add just a little bit of polyester batting or fiber fill, and you want to just fill him up, just stuff him a little bit. Now don't overstuff because you could stretch your stitches because felt is very easy to stretch. So you just want to stuff him just a little bit and then finish sewing him up. So that's the only difference that I did with the ornament, was to add the polyfill to him. So everything else is pretty much the same as the belly band. And then I did add different decorations to him. So you can see here, I added the little heart buttons, and those are cut out from felt as well. And that comes in the die set as well. This die set comes with a lot of different shapes and things to decorate up your gingerbread. It comes with the heart buttons, round buttons. It comes with star buttons. It also, you saw the star that I used on the back of the gingerbread. It also comes with a tree, a little Christmas tree about that size. And I have a project coming up in another video, so be sure to check out my series on creating with these felt dies, because I'm going to be showing you a way to use that little Christmas tree for a fun little project for Christmas. So once I have the hat sewn on, I'm just adding a couple of wooden beads to the string, and then I'm attaching a little bow to in between the wooden beads, and I'm just going to, I tied the bow, and then once I had it tied, now I'm going to tie it onto the string and attach it that way. But there's so many different ways that you could attach the bow to the string. This was just one way I decided to do it. You could actually just tie the bow onto the string. Now, if you saw my previous video where I created the candy cane, I had the bow up against the candy cane itself. But for the gingerbread, I felt that that was a little awkward looking, so I put a button in between the bow and the gingerbread, the top of his head. And so once I have that bow added, then I'm just going to tie you can see at the bottom I have a long piece of string hanging down. I'm going to tie a knot in that string as well so that my loop is one continuous loop. And then I'll trim off that excess string as well. And then what I like to do is so you can see here, I'm just going to tie a knot up at the top as well, trying to hold those buttons on. But this thread is not big enough for the holes of that button. So I like to come back with a little bit of hot glue and just glue that little knot inside of the little ball. I call it a button, but it's a little wooden ball. So I'll just add a little hot glue to the inside of that wooden ball, and that will hold everything together. These were really fun to put together. I have enjoyed playing with these Spellbinders dies. I had been wanting to do some felt stitching for quite some time, just hadn't got into it. So these were the thing that motivated me to finally get going on them and create some. So I have a video up with a candy cane, and then I'm going to be adding more videos in this series. So if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button to let me know that you like this kind of content. Also, if you want to see the rest of the videos, be sure to come back to my channel and look for those. But also you can subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed seeing this, and I hope that I've inspired you to create something today. Even if you don't stitch today, just create something, whatever craft that you enjoy doing. I hope that you'll take the time out of your day to do that. And so here are my two cute little gingerbread guys, and I think they're absolutely adorable. So the one will go on my tree and the other one is going on my journal. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.